IVM.
Hi, this is Ashwin, one of the hosts of the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast, and I'm excited to tell you about this week's sponsor of our show, Storytel. Storytel is a great website for you to get ebooks and audiobooks whenever you want them. You can go to storytel.com/IVM, and this gives you access to a 30-day free trial instead of the normally available 14-day free trial. So definitely use the link storytel.com/IVM. And for the duration of their sponsorship with us, we're going to be recommending one new book every week for you guys to listen to, something that either Varun, DJ, or I have read, listened to, and absolutely love. And so this week, the book we're recommending is called No Limits, The Will to Succeed. It's Michael Phelps, the greatest Olympic swimmer in the history of the sport. It's his autobiography. And it goes through a lot of his mental preparation, what it takes, how he approaches competition, and how he converted his determination into victories and gold medals. This one is particularly special this week because, as you'll hear in our show, DJ had some wonderful birthday celebrations. And so, of course, as he does on Sundays, he is going swimming. So we thought it's an appropriate time for us to recommend a swimming book. So again, Michael Phelps, No Limits, The Will to Succeed, available on Storytel, storytel.com/IVM to get a 30-day free trial thanks to the sponsors of this week's show. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to episode 80 of the Edges and Sledges cricket podcast. Today I've got with me DJ from London, Ashwin in Cincinnati, and I'm Varun based in Singapore. This is a fun weekend because we've actually had 2 birthdays and 2 opening batsmen's birthdays. So first, DJ, happy birthday to you. I think you had a nice fun day yesterday, and I think we can all tell the after effects of that. More importantly, we had another opener's birthday today, and that was Virender Sehwag. So happy birthday to you, Viru. And for all the listeners out there who haven't seen Viru's tweets yet, you must go and read some of his tweets and his replies to all the birthday wishes. My favorite one being the reply to Kedar, actually, where Kedar said, Viru Pa, wish you a very happy birthday. And Sehwag says, thanks Kedar, lage rehna, best wishes always. Which basically to me is his way of saying, beta, your time is up. And so go read some of those tweets. DJ Ashwin, I don't think you guys have read that yet, right?
I haven't read that one. I do want to say there's a third Indian opening batsman who celebrated his birthday weekend, and that's Navjot Singh Sidhu. So as much as we don't remember or talk about him, he's also celebrating his birthday.
I did not know that. The only thing I know about him is that his wife's name is also Navjot Singh Sidhu.
I don't know how to respond to that, so let's go.
At least you didn't say that's terrible.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right. So guys,
it's fact. I can't argue that.
We've got an exciting show today. Lots to talk about, not just on Indian cricket, but world cricket as well. But I think we're going to get straight into India-South Africa, the third test. DJ, before I get into what's actually happened in the match, there were a couple of things that happened off the field. The first one being Markram's self-inflicted injury. And it's not the first one this week. Mitch Marsh had a wrist injury as well. I think Mitch Marsh punched the wall at Waka, if I'm not mistaken. Markram had said that he just punched a solid object, which was very vague. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it seems to be the flavor of the month, right? Like Mitch Marsh is missing out on the test match selection because of this. And Markram is flown back to South Africa after his scan has revealed some broken bones and stuff. So I think this trend was actually started by Stokesy himself. Ben Stokes actually punched, I think, a locker and had to miss the World T20 in 2014. So maybe they're all just trying to emulate him. I mean, he is the world's best all-rounder at the moment. And he's a World Cup winner and an Ashes hero. So maybe that is the way to go. All I would say is that hopefully they don't follow his action then after punching inanimate objects to punching people.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is interesting for me, Mitch Marsh at the end was also disappointed with himself, and he said Justin Langer had just told him that basically you're an idiot. And I think that just summed it up really well. But Ashwin, Markram, potential future South Africa captain, you think this has put any dent in that?
Was dent supposed to be a pun? That was pretty well said if it was. I don't know, man. We'll have to understand more about what it means. I don't blame him, honestly. It's been a struggle. It's been really, really difficult for them in India. So if they're really looking at him as the next captain, I honestly think they're going to jump past him and look straight at Quinton de Kock as the next captain. And we'll talk more. I mean, they promoted him up the order. Hasn't ended so well just yet. But I don't think he's the next captain. And I think they've gotten used to this happening, players taking out their frustration.
Right. So 2 other things happened just before the game started. One was left-arm spinner Shahbaz Nadeem was included in the playing 11 of the squad. We knew the pitch is going to spin, and Kuldeep Yadav I think complained of a shoulder injury. And so Nadeem came straight in. And Nadeem is not somebody a lot of us have followed outside the IPL. I mean, I know 3 of us have followed him a lot because he used to play for Delhi and never really did much, but he always looks like a guy who's hardworking and wants to do well. And then we kind of looked into his record a little bit. In 2 consecutive seasons, in 2015, 2016 and 16-17, he's taken more than 50 wickets in each season. He's done very well with India A. And a lot of people actually said he deserves this. DJ, thoughts on Nadeem coming in suddenly overnight into the squad?
Yeah, I think a great debut for him, right? Making his debut on the ground he plays at as well. So he plays for Jharkhand in the Ranji Trophy. And although he lives in Kolkata, this is his home ground. So kind of a dream debut for him. And I think Kohli pointed that out as well. I think it's nice to see domestic performance being recognized because I think he also holds the ODI equivalent world record for the number of wickets taken in an innings. So he's got the best figures in that. On that front, he's done fairly well on the IPL. And yeah, he's been doing well for India A for quite a while. I think he took a number of wickets on the West Indies tour as well while the A team was out there. So kind of great to see him making a debut in his hometown. And he started off quite nicely today. So two overs and 2 maidens. So pleased for Shahbaz Nadeem.
Yeah, one can't help but think, I think every India home series, they spring on this one kind of player who plays and then kind of vanishes. I don't know if, Ashwin, you remember a guy called Jayant Yadav, who bowled pretty harmless off spin, but has also hit a century, and no idea where he is now.
Yeah, Centurion, man. Of course we remember Jayant Yadav. I think Delhi signed him on as well to play and then never played him. Anyway, there's a lot of baggage there with Jayant. Let's hope Shahbaz is not that guy. I think, if I remember correctly, about 6 or 8 months ago on this show, we talked about him and how hardworking he is. I think we brought it up in the context of when Delhi traded him away to Hyderabad. And you just honestly can't help but feel pleased for him. Again, I agree. I don't think there's a spot in the side for both him and Jadeja. And Jadeja is clearly our first choice left-arm spinner. But it's nice to see him get a shot. I think getting your test cap is always an exciting moment, even if you only end up playing a few matches.
That's true. And then, Ashwin, let me ask you last thing. Faf has come out at the toss. Now you see how I'm building this up? We're getting closer and closer to the first ball. Faf has come out to the toss and he's lost 10 consecutive tosses in test matches in Asia. And so he brings out Bavuma to call for the toss. And Bavuma also gets it wrong. Kohli starts laughing. Graham Smith tweets that this is absolutely ridiculous, like totally uncalled for to have somebody to come out there with you as a captain. I'm sure Faf did it in good humor, but I don't think it came off very well.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I think you mentioned the 2 things I was going to say. Kohli laughing was obviously great, and that image is doing the rounds on the internet. But Graham Smith tweeted something, but on air, I was listening and I was watching during the toss live, and Graham Smith said, "This is absolutely pathetic." And it was interesting because, I mean, I don't know how much former Indian players would dare to say that about an Indian captain at the time, but Graham Smith thought it was pathetic. He said, in my day, when I was skipper, regardless of how far down you are, you have to believe we lost because we didn't play well. We can win the next match by playing better. There have been so many conversations about the toss, and Dean Elgar came and said something that it's been unfortunate for us and complained about the hotels. And so it just feels like the wrong attitude. So I thought it was insightful and great, honestly, that Graham Smith was willing to go on air and say, this is absolutely pathetic. It is. I mean, Kohli's lost 6 tosses in a row before too, right? So it happens. There's a true 50-50. The stats nerd in me wants to remind people, every time you get out there, regardless of what happened before, there is a true 50-50 chance on how the toss is going to go. And so it's just ridiculous. And I thought the reactions were appropriate, even though they were entertaining.
Yeah, and especially the hotels comment. I didn't see that, but Indian hotels are known to be the best in the world. So that's really...
Yeah, so I can quickly paraphrase. I think he said something to the effect of, when you're touring India, things are tough. The hotels are a certain way. Then he said the food. I think he was basically trying to say the Indian board deliberately makes things difficult for the touring sides. And it was very, very poor taste. I think you're spot on, where at this point, like most people say, hotels in India are some of the best in the world and hospitality is some of the best in the world. So pretty bizarre comment. I mean, you've batted horrendously, and to go out there and blame external factors like this is just juvenile.
Absolutely. Very sad to hear. But anyway, let's get to the game then. So we're on day 2. India has made 497 for 9, and they actually declared. And South Africa came out 9 for 2 in just 5 overs. So that's where we stand at the end of 2 days. DJ, does this declaration on 9 wickets remind you of a certain birthday boy?
Yeah, Virender Sehwag against Bangladesh, right? After he declared that Bangladesh can't take 20 wickets in a match. And then in the second innings, when India were 9 down, just promptly declared. And when he was asked about it, I think in the press conference later, he's like, they still haven't taken 20 wickets in the match. So I think a little bit of...
And he winked.
Did he wink?
Yeah, he did.
Oh man, Sehwag to different class. But I think there a little bit of mind games from Kohli when I think he declared in the middle of an over as well, because they were about to bowl bouncers. It was getting dark as well. So and he didn't want his bowlers to get hurt, right? So yeah, my mind did go back to that. I think it was in Dhaka that India had gone touring.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So the game started off on a quite a different note, to be honest. And Ashwin, I'm going to come to you here because I know the game starts at midnight for you. I know you were up for 2.5 hours till late in the morning your time, because it was a treat to watch Rabada bowl. He just came out there and it looked like this is what he should have been doing from the first test. The ball was moving. The batsman had no idea. India were actually 39 for 3 with Mayank Agarwal, Pujara and Kohli all going very cheaply, 10, 0 and 12 actually. Ashwin, how good was it to watch that kind of bowling after a while?
Yeah, it was outstanding. I mean, to be honest, I stayed up in the hope that I'd see a really strong opening partnership again because I obviously wanted India to do well in the morning. But unbelievable. Like Rabada was just outstanding. I think there was a few things that stood out to me. The first is he did not hesitate to bowl the bouncer. I think against Rohit in particular, who's a good player of the short ball, they've stayed away from bowling the bouncer. I think it was Kohli's first ball. He got bounced. And so I think that was great. Nice to see some aggression. The second is, I mean, this guy was swinging the ball both ways. Varun, I know your favorite kind of classic fast bowler delivery is that full ball that starts angles in and then swings away and makes the batsman play and miss. He bowled that over and over and over again. What I thought was incredible was just seeing him bowl it full. You know, they traditionally say you got to bowl a good, a little back of a length or good length in South Africa, England, and Australia. But in India, you have to bowl it a little fuller. And I think Ngidi and Nortje didn't quite pick up on that, but Rabada did. And it was just an outstanding spell of seam bowling. Obviously disappointing to see India get to 39 for 3, but you have to respect the quality of bowling that spell was.
Yeah, and actually, I remember I was out and on my way home, and Ashwin messaged me saying, dude, you got to get home and watch Rabada bowl. And I was like asking the taxi uncle, please hurry up, right? Because we haven't seen that this series. But DJ, it's too early for you. But any thoughts on Rabada's bowling or the South African bowling before we get into the Indian batting?
No, I thought they bowled very well, obviously, in the first session, right, where they, as you say, pitched the ball further up. And Rabada really did look up for the fight. And that was good to see. I felt that they had tough 2 tests to start with. And for them to show that fight in the first session was good to see, that they weren't taking the test match lightly. But as we'll talk about it, what turned out was India overcame that period and came back very strongly.
Yeah. And the other guy who played was Lungi Ngidi. I think he hasn't played the first 2 if I'm not mistaken. And so it was good to have him back, but he pretty much had a disaster, like 20 overs, 83 runs, 0 wickets, going at above 4 runs an over. And Ashwin, I know we were talking about a tweet where he came out and he was talking about the Indian crowds and how somebody asked him, does he like the song Lungi Dance? And he said, yeah, he's so used to hearing it in CSK. And I think the tweet asked, how many times does Lungi play in Lungi Dance? His answer was 14, right?
Yeah, I think he said 14, but I'm pretty sure he's wrong.
Yeah,
we all kind of celebrated the tweet because it was funny, but has anybody actually counted the chorus?
I actually did, and I counted it just before we started the podcast, and I thought it was 16. And Ashwin, being somebody who's in music, told me that, yeah, that's probably right because it's 4 beats each, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you should sing it for our listeners and count live on air. I can keep count if you want to sing.
Yeah, let's do it. Come on, Varun.
Okay, fine, let's do it. Then you guys keep count, okay? Lungi dance, 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 lungi dance. Man, I really hope one of you counted.
That was 60. Oh, no, wait, we lost count. Yeah. Can you do it again?
No, I'm not doing it again. I can go into the next one.
Okay, Ashwin, it's been a tough day for me already after my birthday yesterday. Can we not have him sing this again? Please, my head already hurts.
Okay, good. Let's go with that. 16.
Well, the most retarded moment of
16 confirmed.
Okay, DJ, let's get into it. Rohit Sharma,
1 sec. Can we close this by tweeting at him that his math was wrong?
Can we please do that? That would be fantastic.
I do that.
Okay, DJ, let's come to you. Rohit Sharma, 212 of 255 balls, strike rate 83, hit a 6 on 199 to get to 200. How great an innings was this, especially when you consider that India was 39 for 3?
Aren't you forgetting that he hit a 6 to get to his 100 as well? Does that remind you of somebody else?
Yeah, I was thinking 6 to get to 300 reminded me of somebody else, but I didn't know he hit 6 for 100 as well. That's pretty cool.
He hit a 6 to get to his 100 as well. He was on 95 and then he smashed it over long off, right? But I mean, he now averages 99.84 at home.
Wow.
That is insane. He also is the first man to score.
That is higher than Don Bradman averaged at home, by the way.
Is it?
Don Bradman averaged 98.22 in test matches at home.
Oh, that's disappointing.
So Rohit should quit, right? Like at this point, just retire, average higher than Bradman.
While he's ahead, right? Ahead. Incredible, man. I mean, the guy has just taken to opening like he's been waiting for it all his life. And I'm so amazed to see that because he's the first guy to have scored 300 in the first 4 innings he's played as an opener. He's got, I think, over 500 runs already in this series. He scored a double hundred as an opener. Sometimes we mockingly speak about his double hundreds in one-day cricket, and we're like, if it's a score of 250, Rohit will chase it by himself. But I mean, this innings in particular, right, with 39 for 3, Rabada has got his tail up. The South Africans are bowling well. They're bowling quick. Nortje has taken his first wicket. He's got Kohli with a marginal decision on the LBW, whatever. But the South Africans had their tail up. And Rohit, I think the first drive he actually hit was the one that took him to 50. So that is the amount he has reined himself in. And I thought it was a magnificent innings. I thought it is the best innings he's played to date. Given the situation, he's actually adapted his game to it. He only hit the ball when it was bowled short to him in the initial stages, and then he opened out. He ended up, I think, getting 212 off 250 odd balls, which is a fast double hundred, right? And he hit a number of sixes and just fantastic batting. I just think it's great. I mean, there are people talking about, when we go to New Zealand, we'll check his technique then. The Rohitians, on the other hand, are saying, why did Kohli wait for 5 years to let him open the batting? He should have asked him to open the batting earlier. I'm just happy that Rohit Sharma has had a second coming, so to speak, and he adds so much. I can't even tell you how much he adds to the top of that test order. It's just incredible. I've criticized him incredibly in the past for his temperament when he's batting at 6 and 7, but I'm so happy to see this. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same feeling here. I mean, it's great to watch somebody go out there and control the way he did. It's great to know that in India's 39 for 3, Rohit Sharma is still batting. And Ashwin, I mean, people have said, he's hit 5 centuries in the World Cup. He's now hit 3 back-to-back test centuries. Apart from Ben Stokes, I mean, this is Rohit Sharma's year, right? Cricketer of the year, undoubtedly.
I mean, you have to add in, he won the IPL for his 3rd time as skipper.
That's true.
And personally, he had a child this year. His daughter was born this year. So 2019 is 100% going to be the year Rohit Sharma remembers. I hope he goes on to have lots more good years like this, but this has been an unbelievable year.
Absolutely. And Ashwin, now coming to Rahane, right? Rahane is somebody who's always a little bit quiet, unassuming, but for him to come out, support Rohit and actually hit 115 at a strike rate of 60 himself, I mean, no doubt, right, about Rahane's place in this middle order when a lot of people were talking about it earlier on.
Yeah, I think before the West Indies series, even we were saying, does he still belong at number 5? Do we still slot him in? I think at the end of the West Indies series, we were all convinced that he's the right person at 5. We probably have one of the best 3-4-5 in the world in Test cricket at the moment. But I thought it was absolutely incredible because usually he walks in at 5 after Kohli or Pujara or Kohli and Rohit have all been, or at least one of those, maybe 2 of those have been doing well. He walked in at 39 for 3. And exactly, you mentioned it, not just the runs, but the actual strike rate. He was, at the end of day 1, he was on 70 odd or 80 odd runs off just 120 balls. I mean, absolutely outstanding. That's counter-attacking at its best. And you were talking about how I stayed up late that day. I went to sleep when it was 71 for 3. I woke up in the morning and saw 274 for 3 and did that, movie double take where I rubbed my eyes and looked again because I assumed it would be like 274 for 7. And it was just incredible that these guys had batted out the rest of the day. So kudos to Rahane. We're going to remember this test match for Rohit, but Rahane's done incredibly well too.
Absolutely. And so then after Rahane, India went on. Jadeja came in, made 51. Saha finally got a little bit of time out there. He hit 24, which incidentally I think is lower than or close to his average. Ashwin didn't, nothing much to write home about. Umesh Yadav is the guy. I don't know, DJ, if you're watching this, but he came out 30 runs in 10 balls with 5 sixes. How insane is that? I missed it, man.
It was awesome. It was awesome. He just swung at everything. And he's so strong. I mean, his head is going in a random direction. His legs are going in another direction. But he gets any bat on it, any decent amount of bat on it, and it's out of the park, boss. He finally got out swinging wildly across the line, but those 10 balls were fantastic to watch. And then Shami kind of said, why am I batting below this guy? And hit it even more. So really good. By the way, I have a question. Was that dig at Saha's average a punt?
It was not a punt. It was just, I mean, first time he has an opportunity to come out and bat, and he hits 24 or 42. I don't know what else to say. Anyway, right. So then, like DJ said, Shami also came out, who is known to swing and miss a lot. But he also got 10 of 11 balls with one gigantic 6. And India finished on 497 for 9. South Africa then came out. Ashwin, Quinton de Kock opened the batting, right? Any thoughts on that before we get into it?
Yeah, kind of two thoughts really quickly. The first is it seems like this Rohit model has worked for India, so other teams are saying, okay, should we do the same? Send in a prolific limited overs batsman up the order to try to hit some quick runs. So interesting to see how probably 6-8 weeks ago we were all uncertain about Rohit up the order, and now it's worked so well that other teams are trying to replicate it. But the second thing I did want to say really quickly, since you guys mentioned Pant, is I think DJ put it very eloquently on the show, is that Pant averages about 15 runs higher than Saha, and the question is that one drop catch or miss stumping going to be worth 15 runs or so? And I bring that up in the context of your Quinton de Kock question, because Heinrich Klaassen was brought in to bat in the lower order and keep, so that Quinton de Kock, as an opener, doesn't have to be keeping all day. And Klaassen both missed a fairly straightforward stumping and dropped a pretty straightforward catch. And so that's where this becomes interesting, right? In their case, Quinton de Kock is their first choice keeper for his keeping ability. You've now given the gloves to somebody else. And while Rohit and Rahane are batting, there were opportunities to get them out, and Klaassen let them go. So interesting. I mean, the Quinton de Kock ended up getting out, so the experiment failed for now. But to me, it was more about that keeper decision that was interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, no doubt Saha's keeping is really good. But I want to ask one thing. I was hearing the podcast from last week, Ashwin, and I was not there last week. But I remember you all made a comment that you all don't know too many ODI batsmen who have done well in tests opening. Was that correct?
Yeah, maybe not that many limited overs batsmen who'd done well in tests, apart from maybe Warner and Viru, right? Like as opening batsmen.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it, but I don't know whether. Wow, 1 week, man. Weak memories.
Yeah, and I think
DJ can quote what he was doing on December 3rd, 2006, but he doesn't remember last.
No, I know what Dhoni was doing then.
That's
the point.
I thought it was interesting because of the Quinton de Kock discussion, right? For him coming up the order, and the only other person I can remember who's done different positions is Gilchrist, right? Gilchrist is a guy who batted opening in ODIs and batted at number 7 in tests and was extremely successful. But
now that you mention it, I remember, just to be really clear, we were saying openers and ODIs who bat well lower down the order in tests. We couldn't think of examples. So Gilchrist is the right one you're saying. But otherwise, you think of a Viru, you think of these guys, they're openers in all formats.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the Rohit Sharma and Quinton de Kock discussion, right? And probably that's what prompted it. So anyway, South Africa are 9 for 2. I watched a little bit of it, of the 5 overs. It was amazing to watch Shami steam in and bowl, right? 1 over, 1 maiden, 1 wicket. But just the intent that he had, it was almost scary, like thinking about facing him from the other end. So I think that was great. We're on day 2 right now. India's, of course, got 3 days to go. There is a little bit of rain forecast, but I think this one is safely in the bag. And unfortunately, I think DJ is going to win the South Africa-India prediction contest 3-0.
Yeah, so that was well done by us as well. All 3 of us went for different options, which would end. I think mine probably had the least chance of coming through at the start, right?
Yeah, exactly.
India would have to sweep the series.
Yeah.
So you kind of both.
I don't know if it had the least chance of coming through. I think mine probably had the least chance of coming through. I will say with the rain in the air, Varun's still alive because this could still end in a draw. So let's not let's not jump to any conclusion.
That's true. And boss, the ball from Umesh, both those balls, Umesh and Shami, both bouncers getting Quinton and Elgar. Also, Ishant being dropped and these two guys just like kind of smashing it with the bouncers. It was incredible to watch. This is what used to happen to us. When we used to tour South Africa, the fast bowlers, you spend 2 days in the field and then the fast bowlers take 2 wickets before the end of the day.
Yeah, we're just too used to this. And also think about it that our two main test bowlers are actually Ishant and Bumrah. Both of them are not there and we're still doing this.
Yeah, but why is Ishant not playing? Do we know? Is it because of a form thing or is he being rested? Because he hasn't got that many wickets this series. I think he's picked up maybe 2 or 3 at most.
I think if you think about the choice to bring in a third spinner, Umesh got 1 test and played incredibly well. So who are you going to leave out then? So I think he's being rested. I don't see it as a lack of or a loss of faith in him.
Fair. That's a fair point. But yeah, they've done incredibly well. And I think I want to see now what happens on day 3. And if India can actually wrap this up, that'll be fantastic. So India's firmly in control at the point of us recording this podcast. And with that, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I also kind of wanted to make a couple of other announcements, right? So first, as I think I mentioned last week, I just want to kind of reiterate, we're going to be closing our Soundcloud channel at the end of this month. So if this is where you're hearing us, please maybe try and listen to us on something else, maybe the IVM Podcast app, maybe another app. We're on all kinds of different platforms. The other thing is a little happier, right? So for the first time ever in Asia, we have a podcasting award for shows made in Asia. And we're very happy to announce that a number of our shows have been nominated. Pesa Vesa, Tech Careers in the New, Varta Lab, and Junior One have all been nominated for these awards. Please go to the website asianpodcastawards.com and go vote for our shows. Come on, make us win, guys. On Cyrus Says this week, check out the episode we did with the cast of The Upstarts, the new Netflix series. On the Empowering series, Zarina is joined by stand-up comedian Shrija Chaturvedi. On this episode, Shrija talks about her journey as a stand-up comedian, the way she perceives her struggles, and what makes her feel the most empowered. You thought Simplified were done with celebrating their 150th episode? Not even close. Chuck, Naren, and Shriketh are back with the third part of their 150th episode. Make sure to tune in to see if your questions are featured. On KBCD, Farhad and Sunetru talk about the evolution through college life and their experiences that changed them forever. This week on Boundless, Natasha reads the poem calling out all aunties who pressurize us to be a certain way and shares her idea of a charming prince. On Golgappa, host Trupti is joined by actor and contestant on Big Boss Marathi, Neha Shitole. She talks about her experience in the Big Boss house and the politics in it. On Feeding 10 Billion, Ramya and Varun talk to food historian Kurush Dalal. They delve into the history of our food and how it dictates our future. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ayushi and Ritasha talk about celebrating girlhood on Girl Child Day. Together they talk about the situation of women and girls in the country and how important it is for them to have powerful role models, a sense of freedom, and the ability to exercise agency. On The Habit Coach, Ashwin talks about daydreaming and how one must engineer their imagination. With that, let's get you onto your show.
Welcome back from the break. So we discussed the test match, India's possibility of winning 3-0. We're going to now talk a little bit about non-India topics or non-India-South Africa topics. DJ, I'm going to come to you first. Big news this week. Dada, Saurav Ganguly is the BCCI president. I know there's lots of topics around Dhoni, India, Pakistan, ICC revenue sharing model. Thoughts quickly on Dada becoming the BCCI president?
Yeah, Ashwin and I picked up on this briefly last week because I think the news had broken about 30 minutes before we recorded. So there wasn't that much information going around. But we mentioned it and I thought we said that it was an interesting move from the BCCI to appoint Dada as its president because we'd kind of seen this. And I think you personally had seen this coming maybe 2 months ago where you'd said that he's not going to be the coach, but because that involves working with Kohli as a personality situation rather than he'll go into the politics and he'll navigate like the CAB. We didn't actually talk about him being the BCCI president, right? Which he's now confirmed to be. And we all remember kind of the 2000s where India was going through that match fixing crisis. Azhar had been banned. Some other players, Mongia, Jadeja, all of these guys were under a cloud. So we saw Dada as the guy who pulled us out of that, right? I don't think we're in any sort of crisis from a cricketing point of view. But I think he's right in when he says that we're in an administrative crisis. The Supreme Court is administering the BCCI at the moment. There's conflict of interest issues. In fact, Ganguly himself has to vacate the post, I think in July next year. So he's only got a 9-month stint because he's already had 5 years in administration. So he'll need to have a 3-year cooling off period and all of that stuff. So I think interesting that one of the first things he decided to pick up was Dhoni, where he said that Dhoni will decide what Dhoni wants. And it kind of took me back to the 2008-2009 series against, I think, Australia, where although Dhoni was the captain, he let Dada lead the team in his last test match. And that was quite like an emotional moment for, I think, all cricket fans, where we have grown up watching Dada as our captain, right? Like, I don't know, when you think of an Indian captain, an aggressive captain, the guy who's like brought the fire into the Indian team, which is now obviously very well represented by Kohli and his aggression on the field. But the first guy to do it was Dada. So our generation thinks of Dada as their captain. And I don't know whether you guys think differently, but Dhoni is a continuation of that. And Kohli is now an embodiment of that aggression taken to a whole new level. So I'm very glad that Dada is still involved with Indian cricket. It was interesting to me that he said that Dhoni will take a call on his own future, which was ironic because Dhoni was kind of instrumental in getting these guys out of the ODI setup and stuff. So we'll see how that ends up. I think they have to sit down and talk about it. But at least they have a good relationship. Then the ICC revenue sharing model, that is something that is going to cause a lot of hackles to be raised. The big three takeover, as you remember, there were films made about it, like Death of a Gentleman and stuff, where it showed how India, Australia and England had basically cornered most of cricket's revenues, 51% of cricket's revenues. And Dada has kind of stoked that fire again by saying, guys, we're going to look into how the ICC shares its revenue because we produce 70% of cricket's revenue and we don't get anything close to that proportionally. So that is going to cause issues if that gets into the ICC, and the BCCI are loggerheads on that. So watch that space. Obviously, India, Pakistan, will it resume their rivalry? He's basically washed his hands off. He said, ask the PMs of both those countries. And the last thing, which I guess I want you guys to talk about more, is he said that India should be winning world championships and Kohli's India needs to focus on that. I mean, Varun, are we not focused on winning world championships? What is he talking about? I didn't understand that part.
I don't know, DJ. It's an interesting point because as I read that comment, I thought about the upcoming T20 World Cup, and I also recently read a quote that said, what is insanity? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I think that's kind of where maybe Dada is coming from. You're losing the tournaments in the same way. You're not showing any flexibility. It's this, like, all of us can predict exactly how the next World T20 is going to go. I don't think any one of us has any doubt that India is going to come either number 1 or 2 in the group stage. India is going to reach the semifinals. In the semifinals, we're going to struggle. We're going to be 15 for 3. So I think Dada is probably not saying that the intent is not there to win. My gut feel is that he's probably saying that something's got to change, right? You can't be losing the same way every time. Maybe I got it wrong, but that's my personal view. Ashwin, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, nothing specific. I think any new leader coming in, like all of us from the corporate world know, that new leader coming in wants to set a vision, wants to set a goal, has to say something a little bit out of left field. So didn't surprise me. I think we're all gunning for the same thing. So I think it'll be good to see what he can bring.
Okay, so moving on from that. So not only, DJ, thanks for summarizing the Dada conversation, but we also happened to put out a tweet there, which was a picture of Dada and Kohli sitting together, where Dada's got 2 fingers up, and Ashwin quickly tweeted that as a caption contest. And it actually, it feels pretty good to say this, but somebody picked it up. I think there's a website called Circle of Cricket. It's on Facebook as well. And they actually said that Twitterati's make a photo of Ganguly and Kohli go viral as Dada becomes BCCI president. So Ashwin, well done there, and it felt pretty good to go viral, right?
It did. I mean, obviously, you're expecting me to say, but the picture came from you, so we'll give you credit for finding that one first.
Thank you.
But it was pretty fun. It was nice to see, and unbelievable to keep getting engagement like this from our fans on Twitter.
And DJ, you probably woke up late to this, but were you shocked when you woke up and saw the number of tweets?
Yeah, because the notifications on my phone were on, and I think it was a Monday morning that I woke up, or I don't know, Tuesday, and it was just, I suddenly had 100 notifications on my phone from Twitter, and I was like, what have we said? That are we getting trolled? Are we getting abused? But it was actually nice that people were engaging. So guys, keep engaging, and it's great. We love getting those notifications on our phone.
Yeah, and we love it so much that I tried it for 24 hours and switched it off because I was like, I'm not being able to focus on anything else. But yeah, thank you, DJ and Ashwin, for managing Twitter so far. Right. So moving on from there, DJ, ICC approved a new tournament without BCCI's approval. thoughts on that? And especially Ganguly also made a comment there saying he's going to come and revisit it. But as fans, I think it's great. I think what they've said is between 2023 and 2031, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be 8 tournaments with 2 50-over World Cups, 4 T20 World Cups, and 2 editions of an extra event, which are pretty much going to be 50-over games. It sounds like a Champions Trophy, but it sounds like it's going to be a watered-down version with just 6 teams. DJ, your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is very interesting. It's going to be a 6-team tournament. India isn't fully on board because India wants to preserve the bilateral touring kind of future tours program and stuff.
And that's probably because they make a lot of money on the bilateral.
Exactly. So they are the ones, and the team that they're touring, of course, are the ones that make the money of the bilateral series. And that's what gives India the power on the world stage, saying, if you don't do this for us, we won't come and tour you, or you can't come and tour us, so you're not going to make revenue of that. Whereas for all the others, maybe smaller, less powerful boards, where a bilateral series isn't such an attraction, a world tournament is something that makes more revenue for them. I don't know about the format. I find 6 teams it's a little bigger than the Asia Cup almost. So I'm not sure 6 teams is the right number of teams. But I like the idea of having a world tournament every year, but in different formats. What you don't want to do is to kill the interest in world tournaments by having kind of World T20 in 2 successive years or something like that. So the challenge will be for them to space it out. And I think they've done a fairly decent job so far. But yeah, it's going to lead to friction in the future. And I suspect this all comes down to how revenue is going to be shared. And as I said, Dada is now the president for the next 9 months. He is not known to hold back, not pull any punches, or keep his shirt on. So we'll see how this goes.
Also, just a quick question. Who are the 6 teams going to be? Have they announced that? Because you assume you have to have England, Australia, India. Those are the 3 shoo-ins. Then you bring in New Zealand as a World Cup finalist, which means out of South Africa, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, West Indies, there's only room for 2. So this is going to get contentious.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You're right. How are you going to pick these 6 teams? I mean, firstly, is it actually 6 teams? We're not sure. That's a rumor, according to some discussions at the ICC meetings. Yeah. But they're talking about it being a smaller Champions Trophy. I think, yeah, you and DJ are spot on. How are you going to decide these 6? And it'll be interesting to watch. But as a fan of the game...
And you forgot Bangladesh and Afghanistan, man. They're now also serious one-day teams. So.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
And Zimbabwe is also back. They've been reinstated. So fun times.
Yeah, and like I was just saying, as a fan, I'm very excited. I mean, at the start of every year, I kind of look forward to see what's the big tournament that Indian cricket is going to have, or not Indian cricket, generally global cricket is going to have, apart from the IPL. And I get really happy in years there is one. So as a fan, I'm excited, but more details to follow. I guess we'll find out more. Ashwin, let me come to you. The World Cup final was obviously very controversial, and recently ICC changed the super over rule, and Nisham tweeted as well. But is it a little too late?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are arguing that, right? So just as a quick recap of what happened, the World Cup was decided when the Super Over was tied. It came down to a technicality that said which team scored more boundaries, which we all looked back in hindsight and said is a ridiculous rule. So the ICC, I think, took the right step and said, okay, let's revisit that rule. And so the new rule is if a Super Over is tied, they will play another Super Over. And if that's tied too, they'll play it again and again till there is a clear winner. I think that's interesting. Now I'm starting to think about like what's the longest game you could have? Could you have an extra 5, 10, 15 overs played? But anyway, that's a separate discussion. Jimmy Neesham, being funny, and he's an incredible person to follow on Twitter, he said, next on the agenda, better binoculars for the ice spotters on the Titanic. So obviously just saying, hey, great, let's look back in time and try to fix things that it's obviously too late to fix. I do think, look, they can't go back in time and fix it. So the least they can do is correct it going forward. So I'm supportive of the decision. It would have been nice if we all looked into it before, but hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, 2020 indeed. Nice play on words there. But yeah, so that was an interesting one. I think to me it's a little too late, but always good to know that things are changing for the better. You have to count on past experience to ensure the future is better. So I think it's a good move. The other one that's interesting is the 100 draft. Now, this is going to happen in England. It's ECB's new 8-team tournament, which is basically a 100-ball competition. And interestingly enough, the men's draft is actually taking place tonight on Sunday, October 20th. So DJ, I'm not sure if it's being telecast, but if it is, try to watch it. It'll be interesting for us to learn a little bit more about it. Here's what we know so far, right? Each of the 8 teams have already picked 3 players in their 15-man squad. there's definitely one English national level player and 2 local icon players who have played for these kind of counties, right? The draft is actually different to the IPL auction. In the auction, there's bidding. Here, there's no bidding. Every team will have 2 picks per round for a total of 7 rounds. The order of picks is already kind of predetermined. It's done randomly, like like a lucky draw kind of a thing. And basically, you just keep picking as you go on. Every team has only 100 seconds to make their choice in every round. So I'm not sure if the NFL works like this. Ashwin, do you know or have you followed that? But I believe that's what it is like, especially because we've seen this show called The League, which at least Ashwin and I love it. And I know that's how they pretty much start.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's like that for the new players. So every year the crop of players that graduate from college football get drafted in just in a way similar like this. So getting first pick in a draft is a highly coveted thing. And now, of course, depending on the league, teams can trade. So if you want to trade the first pick for an existing player, there's a lot of background. But yes, the American Sports League in general, for new college players coming into the pro leagues, follow a similar setup.
Okay, interesting. So it'll be fun to see how this works. Things like salaries and all are interesting. Your salary, the player's salary depends on when they are picked up in the round. The first 2 rounds, players will get £125,000. Those picked later will receive less. And the lower salary is going to be £30,000. You can have 3 overseas players playing in the 15-man squad. And right now, there's some big names like Chris Gale, Malinga, Rabada, Smith, Mitchell Stark, David Warner, Shakib, Andre Russell. These are all the names there. It'll be interesting to see. DJ, I'm not sure if players like Yuvraj Singh, now that they've retired, are they eligible to play? I think that could be quite interesting.
Yeah, Yuvraj, I think, should be eligible if he's got time for his Twitter activities. Have you been seeing what he's been tweeting recently?
Yeah, I did. About Dada's, did you see the...
Yeah, it was great. He talked about his yo-yo.
Yeah, he congratulated Dada for becoming Bcci President and then went on to say that he wishes, or he complained that he wished Dada was there when the yo-yo test was becoming this whole big thing in Indian cricket. And clearly he feels let down because he failed that in 2017 after the Champions Trophy, and he hasn't played a single game for India after that.
And if there's anybody who would have not supported the yo-yo, I'm pretty sure that Dada would have not supported the yo-yo.
Yeah, I think
as a measure of cricketing ability.
Yeah.
But interesting also that Harbhajan Singh actually signed up for the 100 right at the start.
As a commentator or as a player?
No, as a player, and he put his name in the hat, and then a couple of days later he had to tweet and clarify, and that says that he'd withdrawn his name from the 100 because he was still playing for Chennai, and so active players are not allowed to play. So active BCCI contracted players, in the sense that if you're playing in the BCCI domestic IPL, he would not be allowed to play, because there was some speculation that because he's retired from international cricket, he will announce his retirement from international cricket and play the IPL as well as the 100. But basically, the BCCI has put its foot down, I think, and it said not happening. If you want to play for Chennai, which I think he will continue to play, right? Because he does get picked in the team. You're not going to be able to play the 100. So no Indian players, I think, active Indian players in the 100. But be great to see if Yuvraj can find his way in at some point.
On that same count, Yuvraj plays for Bombay, and I would expect that he'll be wanting to play. So that kind of eliminates Yuvraj as well.
Are you sure? I mean, he is in the squad, but he played like 3 games and then he was rested for the rest of it, man.
But Yuvraj, I mean, just to close this out, Yuvraj is not in the 100 draft. The only Indian player to be in the 100 draft was Harbhajan. Yuvraj was in the draft for the CPL and other overseas leagues, which I don't know how the BCCI is going to deal with that, but he's not in the draft for the 100.
Fair enough. DJ, another thing on the 100, Gary Twirston, I was going to say.
Why have you got Gary Twirston from? Because he tweeted.
Gary Twirston, what a name. Okay, that's how we should call him. Anyway, he tweeted something interesting on the 100. You want to share that?
Yeah, so Gary Kirsten is the coach of one of the teams in the 100, the Welsh team, in fact. So clearly they got a memo to try and raise some awareness about the 100 by tweeting from their public handles, right? So what Gary Kirsten does is he takes the text that he's been given, copies it into the tweet and tweets it as is. And it reads as, "Can't wait for the 100 draft and to pick, open square bracket, insert team name, close square bracket, squad on Sunday at 7 p.m. Now, as a lawyer who uses square brackets as placeholders for missing information all the time, this is a tweet that's very close to my heart, because I've actually seen documents signed with like blobs and blanks in the thing, which obviously other law firms drafting it, not me, which are pretty amusing. So you point those out to the clients later, and you have a good laugh about it. But basically, he's not put in the name of the team, and he quickly realized it. But Twitter being Twitter and technology being technology, it had been screenshotted by then. So we've actually just tweeted out the original tweet with the square brackets and third team name and with the caption "Nice Gary." So go and check that out as well. He deleted that tweet very quickly and came back and put up the name of the team and said hashtag that's better. So I don't know. Actually, one thing you could take away from this is the 100 publicity has been insane. But in the world we live in, the world of alternate facts and all of that stuff, is this deliberate? Do you think this is just creating buzz about the 100 where there is none? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't think they're that farsighted, but it would be interesting if it was. I doubt it is. I think the 100 is going to do whatever they can to get publicity. I mean, I'm going to tune in to watch the draft if I can find a way to watch Sky Sports. So I think there's enough.
So it's not deliberate, you think, not a master plan conspiracy to get the 100 into the news when actually nobody is really interested in it. But interesting. I just thought with their crappy advertising to date, maybe that's the strategy that they're going with.
I mean, that would be interesting if that is, but I also doubt it. And I doubt Gary Kirsten would probably agree to something like that. That's the only point that makes me doubt it.
But maybe Gary Twirston will.
Twirston, dude, that's just too good.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, last point. DJ, let me ask you. Sarfaraz has been sacked as the coach from, I think, 2 out of the 3 formats. And again, this is very funny, but I don't know whether you saw this, but the Pakistan Cricket Board, as soon as they announced these changes to the captains, then tweeted a picture or a video of Pakistan players dancing, and they got trolled very badly for being for people having said that you've just sacked your captain and you're releasing these videos of players being so happy. And they actually had to come out and clarify saying, no, it's because we are exactly 365 days away from the World T20. That's why we released this. But I found that very funny.
I think Sarfaraz's sacking has been coming for a while, but I think he was sacked as captain, not coach.
Yeah.
Coach is Misbah.
Yeah, captain. Did I say coach? Maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah, I think you did. Coach is Misbah. Super selector, chief selector is also Misbah. Misbah is basically pretty much everything in Pakistan cricket at the moment.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, talking about conflict of interest, he was also on the committee that removed the last coach and then applied for the job and he was on the committee that appointed him to the job. So it's just, I mean, it's amazing. It's like proper Banana Republic stuff going on there. But yeah, I mean, Misbah is, I think this is pretty much his first drastic act as coach and selector and chairman of selectors by removing Sarfaraz, right? It's been coming for a while. I think Sarfaraz does get a lot of flack from fans. He's not the favorite of the administrators, although his team was number 1 in T20s, right? So Babar Azam, who is a very good T20 player, has taken over from him, and Azhar Ali, who's kind of an aging player, has taken over from him in test matches. So I think it was coming for a while and no one is really surprised, and yeah, not unexpected, but sad for him.
And Ashwin, let me come to you. Sorry, I keep saying last topic, but there's so much going on. Do you want to talk us through a little bit on the ICC T20 qualifiers so far that are going on, and do give a special call out for one team that has played 2 matches and won 2 matches?
I thought you were going to ask me to call out the one team that has played 1 match and won it, and that's Canada, who I'm cheering for. No, you're obviously talking about Singapore, but let me quickly run down what's going on. So remember the 2020 T20 World Cup, that's a mouthful. It's going to start with 16 teams, actually. So 10 have already qualified. Those are your normal Big Ten that play. There are 6 gunning for a slot to play to make it to the World Cup. And then the first round of the World Cup will have 8 teams, including the 6 that qualify, plus Sri Lanka, plus Bangladesh. And out of those 8 teams, 4 will make it to the main Super 12s draw. So I know that's a little complicated, but basically the qualifying tournament that's on right now has 14 countries in it, and 6 of them have a shot to travel to Australia next year to play. So interesting stuff. I mean, really great. I want to give a shout out, as Varun mentioned, to Singapore, who, despite playing 2 and winning 2, is 3rd in their group because the margins of victory have been small, behind the Netherlands and Papua New Guinea. Third is good enough, but they need to keep that up. And in the other group, Oman and Canada are at the top, having won all the games they've played so far. Still really, really early stages. I think for me, a couple of interesting things. I mean, Singapore beating Scotland was obviously a big win for them, small country. I don't know much about the Papua New Guinea side, but to see them play 2 and win 2 by pretty strong margins, that's pretty good too. I think their net run rate is pretty strong. They're looking pretty certain to make it. And then the last thing I wanted to call out is sad to see Kenya perform at this level and struggling. They've played 2 matches and lost. I mean, I remember the 90s when India used to travel to Kenya and play, and the team, was at a much higher level and could fight. So hopefully we see the Kenyan side bounce back someday. We're all supporters of the associate game, so it will be nice to see 6 teams make it to Australia, and hopefully the best 6 make it there, but we'll talk more about it next week as well.
Absolutely. And DJ just can't relate to this at all, right? I mean, he's living in London. And England have won the World Cup, while Ashwin and I are sitting and praying that Canada or Singapore make it past the qualifiers. So always fun to live in slightly smaller cricketing nations. DJ, I'm going to come to you for the last section, which is our listener tweets. Anything you wanted to call out?
Yeah, so guys, this week we put out a question saying, what is your experience of watching cricket at stadiums in India? Because we'd been hearing a lot of stuff on Twitter about how the facilities at Pune were not great and how there was no water, that people having to sit in the sun, people had put up tents in front of other people's seats. So we wanted to hear from the fans who actually go to the grounds to find out what they actually experienced at those grounds. So we got a lot of responses, and thank you all for writing in. It's really appreciated, you guys taking the time to do that. We can't unfortunately read out all of those responses, but I just wanted to call out a few of them. Pankaj Challa writes in saying his experience was literally from Dante's 9 Circles of Hell. It was horrible. He gives us a link to what Dante's 9 Circles of Hell were. GR @normally_crazy says, call. Wankhede has steps, so steep feels like climbing a mountain. The loo stinks. Refreshments are priced in the stratosphere. Seats are numbered, but like all Indians, we don't follow the numbering system. Entry and exits with security checks are just a pain to go through. So he's not happy with the Wankhede.
It sounds like you need to say terms and conditions apply after the speed at which you read that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of them. Okay. So Mithran goes on to Chepauk, which is the Chennai ground, obviously. He says, it's always whistles for the home team and claps for the efforts of opponents. So obviously this is the ground, right, where Whistle Podu is the official hashtag for Chennai Super Kings. And this is also the ground where the Pakistan team were actually applauded in 1999 as they did a lap of honor after beating India in that test that is still like a dagger in most of our hearts, with Sachin getting out for 136 and a bad back and whatnot. Romsha writes in @Kohli's Charms, writes in, other than my phone getting stolen at Firoz Shah Kotla, I've had a decent time, which is, guess that sets the bar pretty low, but so that's the Delhi angle. Avi @the Incredibles writes in saying, loves watching cricket at the Garden, assume that's Eden Garden. Wankhede and Chinnaswamy are not bad either. Tim William actually replies to that. Tim William says, all too loud. So clearly there's a noise issue for Tim. Dr. Kuldeep Gadkari writes in saying, not very spectator friendly, uncomfortable seats, no food, water arrangements, poor sun shielding, arrogant security staff. Upside is the spectators. So it sounds like the upside is the people you're watching the game with, but the arrangements themselves and logistics are pretty bad. Roshan writes in saying, I've watched only in Eden Gardens. The atmosphere is electric. Crowd is decent. Management quite good. People actually followed stuff like seat numbers, which was good, very good to see, which I think is the opposite of what we heard earlier. But getting to the ground is tough. Need to walk a lot after the car parking, at least 15 minutes between 2 gates. So I think a lot of what we got was, a lot of feedback we got was the IPL games are really fun to watch. The crowds are big. The atmosphere is amazing, but test match and one-day crowds aren't so great. And unless it's in a corporate box, test matches are absolutely of no interest to people. So a lot of horror stories, but the upside was very much focused on the cricket and the people you were watching the game with. So I don't know what you guys think. Do you think that the BCCI doesn't take the fan experience at the ground seriously enough? Now, Varun, you've watched cricket with me in South Africa. Both of you watched cricket in England with me. You've also gone to Australia to watch cricket at the MCG and the SCG in Adelaide. So, Varun, maybe you can answer this. What is this? What is the BCCI doing, and why are they not taking the fan experience seriously? And how does it compare to other places around the world?
Man, it's just fantastic to watch cricket in South Africa, Australia, and England. I enjoy it. I make a holiday of it. The whole experience is just fantastic. When it comes to India, the last match I watched, I think, in the stadium was Sachin's final test in 2013. And I really am not motivated enough to, even though it's only close by to Singapore, I'm not motivated enough to want to fly back to watch more matches in India. And I mean, I don't know the answer, DJ, but I think it just comes down to the BCCI doesn't need to. I mean, the matches are full. India's crazy about cricket. I don't think they need to care that much about the experience. And that's just sad because you really should, especially when you see what's happening overseas.
And Ashwin, what do you think about that? I mean, what is your experience been of watching cricket in England? And have you actually watched a game in India?
I have not watched a game in India since the 90s, and I've probably been to one. So that's pretty disappointing. But honestly, I like England is great, and Varun touched upon it. For me, the best experience I've had watching cricket was at the Bridgetown Stadium in Barbados. Unbelievable. I mean, completely different experience. The West Indies board, at least at the time, went above and beyond to make it a fun experience. Easy to get in, well organized, smooth, very well priced food and drink, so people were not feeling like they're price gouging you, etc. So I'm disappointed. I hope that's something they look at more seriously in the next decade or so, because Ganguly never hesitates to quote that 70% of the global ICC revenues come from the BCCI. But the reality is that's all from TV revenues. And they do a pretty good job putting up, like the broadcasting, etc. is all well done. So I hope they can bring that experience to the stadiums, because there's no point if the stadiums aren't full. And we're seeing that. I mean, Ranchi sold 1,500 tickets. It's not sustainable if there are millions of people watching on TV, but nobody's in the ground because the players won't be able to bring their best.
Yeah, and it can't cost that much either to up the facilities and make the process smooth and enjoyable for the spectators at the ground. I mean, I find it so sad because it's such an experience for everyone to watch a game at the ground, and people have been put off by the way things have been organized more than anything else. Whereas where the IPL games seem to be much better organized, and maybe it's because of the money that's pumped into it, and you can't have an IPL game with empty seats, right? So maybe that's the angle to that. I just found it very, very disappointing. And also, thank you everyone for sharing your horror stories and what you like. I mean, the chants and just enjoying the atmosphere and stuff. So that's very good to see, because people still enjoy the cricket. But I think the BCCI needs to do something and not kill the golden goose and not put people off from going and watching games at the ground, because it's such an incredible experience for people.
Fair enough. Thanks for that, DJ. And with that, we come to the end of our episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Do continue to tell your friends about us. Tweet into us. We love the engagement, and keep listening. Thank you very much.
What do we have to do?
Welcome to What a Player, you guys. This is the favorite sports podcast of several sports persons such as myself, Dudeja and Mikhail, who also happen to be the hosts.
Yes, you should definitely listen to our podcast for our take, and quite a uninformed but hilarious take on sports every week. We give out awards, we discuss what happened in the world of sports, and
we take breaks as well.
We come up with jingles and sound effects on the go. So you should definitely give us an example of a sound effect, Dudeja.
Bolo Matthew Vade.
Yeah, tune in for some of that, bro. You can catch us on the IVM network every Wednesday on the go. On the Wednesday, in the Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, What a Player. What a Player W, Wednesday W.
Wow. Wednesday. Wednesday to Wednesday, What a Player, Matthew Vade.
This is the amazing story of something awesome. Once Chuck decided to start a podcast, and so he did. The end. Okay, that was a crappy story. But I've got some really cool stories over at my new show, The Origin of Things. On this podcast, I look at the stories of how brands came into being and sometimes evolved out of quite unexpected circumstances. And to make it really fun, I reveal the name of the brand and sometimes a category only at the very end. The show is 5 to 7 minutes per episode and perfect for trivia junkies and brand nerds, especially those with short attention spans. New episodes out every Wednesday on IVM Podcasts app or website or any podcast app or site that you happen to prefer. End of story. They lived happily ever after.